When projects fail, it's not usually because the team couldn't code, it's because the team built the wrong thing. Because the number one cause of project delays and cost overruns is incorrect or missing requirements. And most of the time that problem comes down to something as simple as poor communications. Customers are your domain experts, and they know their work inside and out, but they're not technology experts. They'll usually describe symptoms of a problem in their own perspective, not the root causes. And they might say things like, it takes too long to enter information, or reports don't look the way we need them. Those statements aren't just requirements, they're clues. And your job is to dig deeper to uncover what those symptoms really mean in terms of system needs. It's tempting just to try to figure it out as you go. Some people even try to twist agile into that idea, but neither agile nor traditional methods are ever meant to be improvisational. And that shortcut might work if you're just hacking together some small tool for yourself or trying vibe coding, but on real projects it creates a mess that's harder to fix and harder to support. And yes, by the way, even if you do let AI do the heavy lifting, go ahead and experiment. But you still need to know the fundamentals so you can still recognize when it's operating with too little information or inventing requirements that your customer just doesn't want or need. And at the end of the day, requirements development is still your job. The first real step in requirements gathering is listening, and I mean really listening, because hearing is just recording what someone says, but listening means engaging and imagining yourself doing their job, picturing their workflow, and thinking through the consequences of their actions. So as you listen, you should be looking for holes in their explanation, places where things just don't add up. And then you ask clarifying questions. Remember that your customers are often what we call unconsciously competent. They're so familiar with their own work that they don't even notice the details anymore, and they assume that those details are obvious to everyone. But to you, as someone coming from the outside, those obvious steps may never be mentioned unless you ask. And that's why you have to probe, because what often goes unsaid is often just as important as what gets said. So remember that requirements gathering isn't just about running through a checklist of stock questions. It's about having a real conversation with the people who will be impacted by the system that you design. So all this connects to something called systems thinking. Russell Ackoff, a management scientist, was one of the early voices in this area. His main point was that systems are defined more by their interactions than their individual parts. You can't design a piece in isolation. You have to understand how it connects to its environment, to the people who will use it, including their context and their mindset. So for us, that means thinking about all the inputs, outputs, and stakeholders involved in what we're building. IT is often about integration, so you got to make sure that your system ties into the wider ecosystem without duplication or disruption. Projects don't live in a vacuum, so make sure that you account for your upstream inputs, downstream outputs, and every stakeholder that the system will touch. You need to use 3 complementary approaches: extent data, observation, and interviews. So starting with extent data, you need to do your homework and review existing systems and learn the background so you can ask informed questions. So go ahead and rely on Google or ask your favorite AI, but be cautious about hallucinations when working with AI, because just keep in mind, this isn't deep academic research. It's just about spending enough time to learn something new to you, something that matters to your customer, even if you've never thought about their world or what they experience day by day, ever before. So that's number 1. So number 2, moving on to observation, that means watching people do their work. And this could be eye-opening for you. You might see them using workarounds or juggling multiple tools or doing things manually that could easily be automated. And as you observe, take notes and record with permission, and you should, when appropriate, ask to collect artifacts from the user's environment, like things like templates or forms or screenshots that you can study later. And then number 3, there are the interviews, the most powerful tool. But this also is where a lot of students go wrong, because they prepare interview questions like a survey, short, structured, and rigid. And that shuts down conversation before it even starts. So instead, you need to think of an interview in terms of open-ended discussion starters. So for example, you might ask, can you walk me through how you currently handle this process? What's the hardest part of your job in a typical day? Or if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing, what would it be? Or can you tell me about the last time this problem came up? Any of those types of questions invite stories. They let the customer show you their world, and once you hear those stories, you can follow up and probe deeper and begin to understand the real requirements. So you can triangulate what you hear with what you saw and the artifacts that you collected, and map who else is affected so you don't miss downstream effects. One thing to remember, the easy requirements always come out first, and those are the obvious ones, but the most important requirements are the tricky ones, and they take much more effort to uncover. So gathering requirements may feel easy in the beginning, but if you stop there, you'll miss the hardest, most important pieces. You have to keep digging until you're confident that you've uncovered the full picture. Because if you take one idea away from this lecture, let it be this, that requirements gathering is detective work. And your job isn't just to collect surface-level statements. Investigate, question, observe, and build a deep understanding of the real problem. And when you do that, you give your project the best chance of success.